In this short video, we'll look at simple sequences. So the simplest sequence of all is the counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So they form a pattern, and they're going up in ones. So if you look at the difference, every time we're adding on 1 to get to the next term. And quite often, with simple sequences, this is all we need to do, is to look at how they change, and that helps us understand what the next terms will be. So if all I'm doing is adding 1 to get to the next term, and I'm saying to you what are the next two terms, I add 1 to 5 and I'll get 6, and I add 1 to 6 and I get 7. So 6 and 7 are the next two terms in this simple sequence. So let's change it a little bit, and let's make it a little bit more difficult. So we've gone to 3, 8, 13, 18, 23. We'll leave it there, and we want to find out what the next two terms are. So just like in the first sequence where we looked at the differences, we do the same. So what's the difference between 3 and 8? Well, you should know I add 5 to go from 3 to 8. And what do I add to go from 8 to 13? Is it still 5? And in this simple sequence it is. And what you'll find is I'm simply adding 5 to one term to get to the next. So if I want to know the term that comes after 23, I add 5 to it, and it becomes 28. If I want to find the next term, I add 5 to this term, 28, and get 33. You might also notice in this sequence that the last number is alternating between 3 and 8. And that's something else we can spot in this simple sequence. We'll have a look at one more. This one will be slightly different. I think we'll change that. We'll rub that out and give you something slightly different. So what if it went 2, 4, 8, 16? So if we look at the differences this time, they're not the same, but there is a pattern. The pattern, so it's 2 and 2 is 4, and then the next gap is 4, and the next gap is 8. So there's a number of ways we can look at this. We can see that the differences are repeating the original sequence. So by working out the differences, we can see the pattern. So it should be clear that to get our next number, we're going to need to add 16. And 16 and 16 is 32. What you might also realise is that we are doubling to go from one term to the other. So 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Double 8 is 16. Let's say that again. Double 2 is 4. Double 4 is 8. Double 8 is 16. Double 16 is 32. So double 32 gives me 64. In fact, I don't need to work out the difference now. I know I'm just doubling. So the next term will be double 64. So the next term is 128. So that's simple sequences. Make sure you look for the difference between the terms and use that to find the following terms.